on the next episode of AMC's The Walking Dead.
We face dire challenge and chance, rushing out of peace into war. Our lives hang in the balance. We will fight, and we will bleed.
Hey guys, Kiwi here. In this video, I'll be breaking down and analyzing all 3 new promo trailers and sneak peeks for next week's episode of The Walking Dead, Season 8, Episode 4, Some Guy. With that being said, warning of spoilers for everything in the show up to Episode 803, and let's jump right into this. We were released a promo trailer and a sneak peek on AMC's YouTube page, but later on in the video I'll also be going over and discussing the brand new exclusive Talking Dead sneak peek as well. So holy hell, last episode was amazing, and it ended on quite the cliffhanger with Ezekiel's men getting ambushed by the very same guns that Rick and Daryl have been searching for this whole time. They're continuing the beginning of the season with this whole anti-bottle episode storytelling, and I couldn't be happier. Apparently they even filmed all of these episodes alongside each other, considering all the different groups and locations, so I'm very happy with the way that they've been syncing all of the battles. Now jumping into the promo trailer, it starts out showing the camera from the perspectives of the shooters attacking Ezekiel and his men at the end of the last episode. As I mentioned, the shooters are using the same M2 Browning 50 caliber machine gun that Rick and Daryl were trying to track down at the other outpost the past 2 episodes. We now know as of the end of episode 803 that they found out that the gun did used to be there, but it was moved just a day or 2 ago to Gavin's outpost, which seems to be the one that Ezekiel and Carol are attacking, considering that we just saw them all get lit up by the damn thing. So, as I've said in previous videos, we've seen a short clip of Ezekiel's men getting shot up ever since the Season 8 trailer this summer, but even though that was kind of spoiled, they did create uncertainty with Ezekiel and his men throughout the beginning of the season. We assumed that Ezekiel and his men would get gunned down at some point, but he just kept winning his confrontations throughout the entire episode. They were definitely building his group up for failure, as it just seemed too good to be true. Even Ezekiel seemed completely surprised that his plan was going this well.
Not one.
Back in episode 802, we even heard Ezekiel declaring his confidence for their attacks to succeed over and over again, although we knew that he was just talking things up, proven by his fake it till you make it line towards Carol. In this episode, his positivity did seemingly pay off, although one moment with their guard down ruined everything. If they still had an outpost to sweep, why were they all lollygagging in the field? They should have immediately hustled to cover so they could regroup and continue their mission to search and clear the outpost that's obviously right there. Anyways, I assume that Ezekiel will survive this, although he will be surrounded by all of his gunned down men. It looked like all of his soldiers jumped on top of him to act as meat shields, so I assume that he'll probably play dead until he has an opportunity to retreat to cover. Now in the beginning of the promo trailer, when we see the perspectives of the shooters, we can look through the window and actually see a horde of zombies walking through the field of Dead Kingdom soldiers, so I can only assume that either Ezekiel has run away at this point, or he is actually hiding from the zombies under the dead bodies of his soldiers, almost as camouflage, which must be pretty traumatizing, and you better hope that they don't turn into zombies during this. So in the promo trailer for next week, Ezekiel gives another speech, except this one is very different than the ones previously given. Beforehand, Ezekiel preached that they would not lose one of their ranks, boosting their strength by being overconfident like I said earlier. But now Ezekiel is saying things such as "we will fight and we will bleed." Just by hearing this final line alone, it is enough to imply that Ezekiel has survived the ambush, but many of his soldiers didn't. It seems as though Ezekiel has finally learned the cold hard lesson that there will be casualties on both sides no matter how successful you are in war. So when is Ezekiel giving this speech? Well, ever since the Season 8 trailer, we've been getting shown this clip of Ezekiel at the Kingdom, wandering through a crowd of people as they separate in front of them. Is this him possibly returning to the Kingdom from the outpost ambush last episode? I assume that him walking through the crowd will lead up to him speaking to all of his people as he gives the speech that we hear in the promo trailer. And if this speech happens next episode, considering it's Ezekiel returning to the Kingdom after everything that's happened, it'll probably happen towards the end of the episode, as we still need to see the rest of everything at the outpost. And speaking of which, as far as Carol goes, we actually get an entire sneak peek titled Carol on her own, dedicated to her infiltrating the outpost. So the sneak peek starts out with Carol sneaking through a very unsettling empty hallway. Now we were briefly teased Carol in this hallway during the Season 8 trailer, but here we get a lot more context. Although we're unsure about how many Kingdom soldiers got out of that ambush, we can assume that Carol was one of the first to get the hell out of Dodge, along with collect her bearings. Just wanting to help out, she most likely goes off on her own to continue the mission, as the sneak peek title implies. So with Carol sneaking through the outpost, what horrors await her? Well, as she sneaks into a room to hide behind the corner of some counters, we can actually see and hear a large savior walking down the hallway in the same direction as her. Now, the huge savior seems to be yelling at the shooters that gunned down Ezekiel's group, and he says, "Get those guns and let's screw the hell off now." And so if you look in the door frame past the area where Carol is hiding, that man kneeling down beside that window actually looks like the shooter himself, as that looks just like the room that we saw with the shooters at the beginning of the promo trailer. Also, in the trailer we can see these saviors dismantling the guns and putting them away, just like that huge savior is yelling at them to do so, but why are they planning on leaving? Is it because they were the ones who got called up by Morales, or is there another reason? I'm pretty sure that when Morales called his people back inside, they were only talking about the people at that outpost, so why are the saviors at Gavin's outpost wanting to get the hell out? I think that they're under the impression that they completely took out Ezekiel's group, so they probably want to leave to go warn other outposts or even the sanctuary, but either way they seem to have some sort of other agenda. But anyways, as Carol is infiltrating this outpost seemingly all alone, I suppose that she's trying to take down those gunners in order to take them out and obtain their weapons. Now, as if that wasn't already stressful enough, now she has this angry savior approaching her location while yelling at the other saviors that they need to leave, so who knows what kind of situation will occur. She seems to be doing a good job calming her nerves, but will they end up seeing Carol, or will they just walk past her and not notice her?
Get those guns, let's screw the hell off now!
We need some help here!
What you need is to hurry your asses up! If you're not out there with those guns by the time I round this corner, I'm gonna flay your asses! It's real now!
We're almost done!
Will Carol end up attacking them? I imagine the situation feeling similar to way back in Season 4 when Rick was hiding under the bed while Joe's claimers were looting up the place, but we'll just have to wait and see. For all we know, Carol could get caught and go guns a-blazing, but once she reveals her position there, it'll be a lot more difficult for her to make it out of there alive, considering that she'll be very outnumbered. And speaking of getting caught, I wanted to discuss the gunfight between Carol and a few saviors in this area with all of those big white square water containers. Now, we've seen the clip of Carol diving behind a truck since the Season 8 trailer this summer, but now they've revealed a completely new aspect of it. Carol actually gets caught with her hands up. That's right, at the very end of the promo trailer, we can see Carol slowly coming out from behind a truck while she has both of her hands in the air. It looks like there are only two saviors who have the upper hand on her here, so it's totally possible for someone to come out of nowhere and save her, but who? Will it be some random Kingdom soldiers? Will it be Ezekiel? Will Shiva come out of nowhere and eat them? Or maybe even Rick and Daryl? Speaking of Rick, this episode is where we'll finally see the entire Jeep chase scene between him, Daryl, and some saviors. Where we left off at the end of last episode, Daryl and Rick found out that the big guns they were looking for all episode were actually transported to Gavin's outpost a day or so prior to them attacking the outpost. So is someone onto Dwight giving Rick intel, or was this just bad luck? Now, Dwight was correct with his intel, those guns were there, but Dwight was obviously unaware that they were relocated so recently. I don't think that Dwight was misleading them at all, but we'll just have to wait and see. I assume that Rick and Daryl are now on their way to Gavin's outpost, so is this where the Jeep chase comes in? Now, we've been speculating about it all season, but next episode seems to be when it finally goes down. During the brand new Talking Dead sneak peek, we get a glimpse of Rick and Daryl chasing down a few saviors in a Jeep. Daryl is on his motorcycle while Rick is in a Jeep himself. I assume that they come across some wandering saviors on their way to Gavin's outpost or something. We're unsure about how this Jeep chase starts. All we know is that it's going to happen. Maybe it's possible that the people that Daryl and Rick are chasing are actually the same people that left the outpost that Carol was infiltrating. We can see those people packing up the guns and leaving, and if you look in the back of the truck that is shooting at Daryl in the Talking Dead preview, that actually looks like the same machine gun, is it not? It's entirely possible that maybe Rick and Daryl were almost at the outpost, but they caught them leaving and decided to chase after them. But that still leaves the question of why those saviors randomly decided to leave Gavin's outpost with that huge gun. Maybe they got a call from the sanctuary and they're going there to try and kill all the zombies with it? We see Daryl and Rick catching up to the savior driving the Jeep, but as Daryl gets close enough to start shooting at him, the back of his Jeep opens up, revealing that he has a buddy in the back, and the buddy starts returning fire at Daryl. Daryl manages to avoid the gunfire, but he ends up taking a dive off of his bike due to losing balance, as it looked like one of his tires might have gotten shot. He could have also just bailed, due to not having any cover on his motorcycle, as he was out in the open in the middle of the road, and I bet that if he would have continued on, he would have gotten gunned down in the next burst or so. Rick, however, has slightly more cover behind the driver's seat of the Jeep that he's in, and in other trailers he actually manages to catch up to the Savior Jeep as well. Back in the Season 8 trailer this summer, we saw Rick drive up to the Jeep and actually jump from one Jeep to the other. So what I assume happens here is after Daryl bails, Rick ends up shooting out the other guy in the back of the Jeep, followed by catching up to the Jeep and jumping into it as we just discussed. He most likely kills the guy and then stops the Jeep, and then we'll probably see Rick and Daryl regroup as Daryl catches back up on his motorcycle. A week or two ago, we were teased a clip where Daryl and Rick seem to be splitting up after the Jeep chase sequence, but then again Rick could just be walking back towards his Jeep, which could be behind the camera, explaining why we didn't see it in that angle. Let me know what you guys think about next week's episode down in the comments section below. Will characters from the kingdom such as Ezekiel, Jerry, or Shiva be okay? Will Carol get out of being captured? And will Rick and Daryl come and save the day? I'd appreciate a like on the video if you've enjoyed anything I've said today, or even subscribe for more Walking Dead content in the near future. If you'd like to take that extra step in helping support my videos, feel free to check out my Patreon, where there's a bunch of different rewards involving the channel, such as a chance to directly influence the videos being produced. It isn't necessary by any means, but some of these videos really do take a while, so it could help in the long run. But as always, I thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.